Hey everyone, GameWiz1 here for GWiz TV. I wanted to talk to you today about Respawn Entertainment's recent announcement for a North American release for their game Titanfall. It's been revealed that Titanfall is going to release on March 11th. This brings up an interesting issue for me. I'm trying to see how this is going to affect the launch of the Xbox One. As you already know, Watch Dogs has already been in a state of limbo, as you may imagine. It's been pushed back into next year, and the way I'm looking at the situation, this is making it a lot harder for people to justify the $500 necessary to buy an Xbox One at launch. Honestly, this is starting to become a bit of a concern for me. Now, while I do understand that this game was never confirmed for being a launch title, the simple fact that it is March is a little bit of a, I don't know how you put it, it's a long time to have to wait for such a AAA title. Obviously, having this game release at the launch window would have been ideal, especially for Microsoft, taking the hammering that they received at the end of their E3 debacle, where it was revealed that several of their policies were going to be changed, which would not favor the end user. But now we have a situation where some of the biggest games that were going to be there near launch are now pushed back into a farther back time frame. Of course, I don't think that this is going to absolutely destroy the launch. Obviously, there are millions of people that want this new console, and they're going to be willing to pay whatever price is necessary to be the first one of their friends on the block that actually has this hardware. It just seems like there's less and less incentive at this point, because obviously the games Watch Dogs and Titanfall are probably the two biggest games that everyone has on their wish list for the Xbox One. I myself am I'm slightly concerned, but obviously there are other games that will be appearing at launch, so it doesn't change the fact that I want to get these systems in day one, but it just makes it, I don't know, it makes it a little less magical or necessary, you know. I mean, these were the big two games, but as we know now, things just don't seem to be going the way that the fans would like it for the launch of the new systems. So we have to wait and see if things improve. Another issue I'd like to talk to you today about is the release on their collector's edition. This is starting to become a trend that is a little concerning for me. It was only a few years ago that collector's edition was nothing more than $10 price increase on a product. So as you know, the normal products are usually $60, and now they're going to be going to $70. Well, at some point it did change, and collector's editions started going for much higher prices, on average around $150. Well, now we find out that this game, Respawn's Titanfall, is going to have a collector's edition that retails for $250. Mind you, it may not be a lot for those out there who do not have limitations in their budgets, but for the average gamer, that is a pretty steep entry point towards that collector's edition. What's really strange, though, is the fact that this collector's edition is really nothing more than the game, a hardbound book, and a plastic statuette. It's a fairly large one. I think they said it was 12 inches tall, but regardless, it is a plastic statuette. In no way do I assume that this statue should entail such a high premium over the price of the regular game. Now, I do know that it will sell. Obviously, there will be people that are willing to pay that price. But as someone who has bought a collector's edition similar to that in the past, I myself purchased the Mortal Kombat one, which had the two bookend pieces. I can honestly say that I've never done anything with those. I have them on display. They are in my room, but I just don't see that there is really a justification for paying such a high price for nothing more than a piece of plastic. I am very excited for the game, but in my opinion, I just simply can't justify buying the collector's edition. It would be a nice thing to have, but obviously beyond my reach at this point in time. Okay, moving on to other stories. Forza 5 has recently shown that the game is going to include the Top Gear test track. As anyone knows that watches the show Top Gear from England, this Top Gear test track has a draw to it. I assume that other people will see it the way I do, which is that basically the allure to playing in the Top Gear test track is to try to see how good you would do, how you compare to the celebrities that appear on the show and do the star in the cheap car bit. I myself have played this track before. You may know it was included in Gran Turismo 5. And in that game, it was a very fun track. The only problem that I had is, as far as I recall, there was never really the car that was utilized on the show, so you couldn't get an exact comparison to what those celebrities were able to do in the reasonably priced car. Now, I hope that at this point, Forza 5 realizes what had happened in Gran Turismo 5 with the Top Gear test track and includes the same type of cars that you would find in this show, the one that's used. This allows a person to have a direct comparison to the stars, and I can imagine would be a far more satisfying experience than simply getting a quick lap in any car. Another major problem in the GTA 5 version of this track was simply that once you played that course, when you hit start, you were always, you hit the ground running. Your car was never at a stop as far as I recall. So if the game is set up similarly to GTA 5, it will not allow for a direct one-to-one comparison with the television series. Hopefully this is not going to happen. I look forward to playing this new Forza 5, and I really, really hope that the developers know that it is important, if you're going to include this track, to try to include a car similar to the one used on the series to allow for a direct comparison in the times. In other news, the game Killzone Shadowfall was announced to be releasing without any co-op or multiplayer vehicles. Now, this announcement all on its own has me extremely concerned for the future. As many of you may recall, the last Killzone game launched with an in-game co-op, and it did allow for multiplayer online with the vehicles that were in the game, as far as I recall. But what I do not understand is why the company has decided to go the route of chopping out the co-op and then charging for it as DLC. This seems to be a quick cash grab. Others may see it differently. They may say that the move is justified as the new consoles require more money to develop for their complex systems. But the way I see things, this seriously shouldn't be done. You're leaving your fan base feeling as though you found a way to increase the price of software without having to do it initially. I myself find the move a little bit, I don't know, I'm not going to say mean anything like that. It just doesn't seem user-friendly, considering that the past Killzone did include multiplayer co-op in the game. I'm curious to see how this is going to affect sales for Killzone Shadowfall. As some of you have seen the announcement trailer, it looks simply incredible. The game is definitely pushing the PlayStation 4, maybe not to the max, but is definitely utilizing the new hardware to show off a level of quality in the game design that wasn't present in the PS3 due to its limitations in RAM. I hope that this doesn't affect sales negatively, but I do imagine that it will put a slight dent in those numbers simply because people are going to have to chip in additional funds later for their co-op experience. As things are right now, things are really becoming less and less ideal for the launch of the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. As we've seen, many games have fallen off the radar as far as timing their release with the release of the new consoles, and others are simply changing a feature set which requires more money. I have yet to make a final decision on how this is going to affect my purchase for the games, but I'm a little less excited for the hardware. Now, don't take me wrong, I do want the hardware and I will be buying this hardware. It just takes a little bit of the excitement away when things keep apparently getting lost in the shuffle for the release date. So that's it for me now. I'm GameWiz1 for GWiz TV. I'll talk to you again soon.